Hi, I greet you all and I welcome you once again to our lesson. Yes, this is what we did in our previous lesson. But it seems some students are finding some challenges here, and we have to at least go through once again. So, in this lesson, I'm only going to throw more light on this because we did this in our previous lesson. Yes, so my dear students, those who are still having a little challenges, I would want you to follow me as I take you through some few aspects, few things about it. So, in this lesson, what we are going to do is that because we've solved some examples in our previous lesson, we took few examples and looked at how we find the volume and the total surface area of prisms. But few students having challenges suggest that we need to go through again. So what we are going to do is that we are only going to go through some of the formulas, how you are going to get the formulas, how you are going to identify the base face of a prism, the lateral faces of the prism, the height, the depth, or the length. We are going to go through once again so that when you meet questions, you will be able to um, go through that. So, my name is Evans. I'm your mathematics facilitator. This is Mathbase TV. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. All right. So, um, let's move on. Okay. So we shall start with triangular prism. Triangular prism. Yeah. So as I said in our previous video that when you talk about prism, okay, all that we are talking about is that we have what three-dimensional shapes where we have two base parallel um, phase. Okay, we have two base parallel phases which are identical, and then we have lateral faces that connect these two um, base phases. All right. So if you take a triangular prism, now let's say we take this as our base. Okay. So this is a triangle, and we are using this as our base face. So once you have this, then to form a prism, definitely you are going to get another face which is parallel to this one. Okay, so this is the base face. Okay, so we take another form which is also what the um parallel what face. All right. So if you have this base, how do you form the prism? So it's just a matter of what connecting these two base phases um by hot lateral phases. Okay, so um, before that, let's identify what if we take the base, we can identify what our height. So the height for the base alone, okay, yes. So we say we call it what h. That is our height. All right, that's great. Now, once we have the height, then the same base, we can also talk about what the base length. Okay, we are talking about the base of the triangular prism. But if you take the base, we have its height, which is the h. Okay, and then we have its base length. Then we can name it what b. That is for the base face of the triangular hot prism. So we want to connect this one. But once we have this one, we can also have the side length, which can be called maybe the width or the breadth. So we use W to represent that. Okay, yes. Then once we're able to identify this part of the base, let's try and connect these two base faces with what? Lateral faces. All right, great. Yes, so let's join them together. All right. So here we can talk about one what lateral face. But know that this lateral face that we are connecting, that is what we call what the height. Okay, the height of the prism. So the height forms what or when we get to height, it forms what a lateral face. Okay, so this is the height. All right, then we can also get another height there, which also connects one base phase to another base phase. But note that these base phases we are talking about, they are what identical. They are also what congruent. Why are we saying that? Yes, they are congruent because they have the same size and the same shape. Okay. Yes. So know that. Okay. So once you realize that you have the lateral faces which connect these two base phases together, then we can say that we have what? A triangular prism. Okay, yes, that is it. So if we talk about it, then once we have those lateral faces connected, all right, then we can say that how many of the lateral faces do we have? Yes, we have one here. Yes, that is one of them. And then we also have another one here. Okay. Then we can also talk about the other side. All right. Yes. So now how many of the lateral faces we have now? We have what? Three of them. So it means that if you take a triangular prism, we have two base face. Okay. You have two base phases, and then you have um, three what? Lateral or side faces, which are all what? Rectangular faces. Yes, you can see for yourself. Okay, and that rectangular face, they make what? The height of the prism. So take note of that. So if you are talking about the height of the prism, know that we are talking about what? The lateral face or the length of the lateral face. Okay, yes, that is the height of the prism. Okay, another word we can talk about, we can use for the height is what we call the depth. Okay, the depth or the altitude. We can say that altitude. Okay, if that is the case, then that is the height we are talking about. Okay, which can also be called what? The depth or the altitude or the length. When you talk of the length, it means that you are talking about the length of the lateral what? Face. Okay, and that length of the lateral face is the same as what? The height of the triangular what? Prism. So take note of that. Alright, so that in questions, when we give you, we see that the depth of a triangular prism, then you know that we are talking about the height. Okay, yes, especially when you are dealing with containers. If you are dealing with containers, okay, when you are talking about the height, we normally use what? The depth or the altitude. So take note of that. All right, yes, that is it. So if that is the case, then um let's move on. Okay, so we can see that we have two of the base faces, okay, which are all what? Triangular faces. All right, yes, that is great. So note also that we can have a triangular shape like this. Okay, yes, we have a triangular shape like this. But before continuing, I want you to also understand that when we talk of a triangular prism, I mentioned it in our previous video and I'm mentioning it again. I said that we have what? Regular um, prisms and we have irregular what? Prism. When we talk of regular prism, it means that the base, okay, the base phases are what? Have the same size. Okay, yes, and the lateral phases also have what? The same what? Size. Okay, the base phases are identical. The lateral phases are also what? Identical. But in the case of irregular prisms, the base phase do not have the same size. All right. Yes. Yes. So if you have it like this, then you know that this is what is what is irregular what prism, because you can see that the size of the base um, is they are not what the same. Okay, so they are not irregular what. Yes, so this type of triangular prism is irregular prism. Note also that we have other types of prism. We can have a right prism or oblique what prism. So when we talk of the right prism, what we are trying to say is that they are lateral um, phases are what perpendicular to the base phase. Okay, but for the oblique, you realize that the lateral phases are not what perpendicular, they are slanted. So these are some of the differences that you can think of. All right. Yes. So know the differences among these types of what prisms. Okay. So if that's the case, you can see. So as for the height of the prism. Now, take note. Don't confuse yourself with the height of the base face and the height of the prism. So the height of the base and the height of the base face, we are talking about the base itself, its height. Okay, but when we are talking about the height, the depth, the altitude, or the length, okay, we are talking about the length of the lateral face. Okay, the length of the lateral face. That is what we mean by the height of the prism. So know this these differences so that in a question when we ask you, you know which of them we are talking about. So if in a question, if we say the height of a triangular prism, then know that we are talking about the length of the lateral face. But if we say that the height of the base, you see those two statements, yes, they are not the same. The height of the base is different from the height of the prism. So know this. Okay, if that's the case. Then let's get back to our actual shape. Okay, yes, so this is what we have now. If this that side is the width, then we can also see that the other side is also what the width. Okay, yes, that is the length side of the base. All right, if that's the case, then let's try and see if we can find the we deduce the formula for finding the total surface area and also find the volume. All right. Yes. So before that, let's find the area of the base face. So in a question, when you are asked to find the area of the base, you consider the area of the base, what it is. It is what? A triangle. That means you are going to find the area of the triangle. That is the base. Okay. So a triangle that has what? A height and a base length, it's easy to find the area. It's just a matter of what finding half of the product of the height of the base by the base length of the base face. Okay, yes, we all know that. You get it. Now, remember that I said in our previous lesson that the name of the pyramid, okay, is gotten from the type of what polygon we have. So if you have a triangle as a polygon, you are going to have what? A triangular prism. If you have a rectangle as a polygon, you are going to have what? A rectangular what prism. If it is a trapezium, then you're going to have what? A trapezoidal what? Prism. So note the names and the types. All right. So since we have a triangle, then finding the area of a triangle is very, very easy. You know that it is what you have multiplying what? The base length of the base face and then multiplying the height of the base. So I repeat it once again. Okay, I repeat it that the height here is not the height of the prism, but it is the height of the base. So know the difference. Okay, it's very, very important. So once you have the area of base face, then it is one. You have calculated for one, and you all know that we have what two of the base phases. So all you do is just multiply by find the total base, which is what you multiply by 2, and that gives you the total base phase. Okay, yes, so that is it. Okay, so when you find the total base area, just a matter of what, because they are 2, they just multiply by what 2 and you are good to go. All right. Yes. So if we know the total base area, then let's find the area of the lateral what face. Okay, which is what a rectangular face. All right. Yes. So if that's the case, then we can find the area of now we know that the lateral faces, how many are they? We are what? Three. So if you are able to, and because they are also identical, okay, they are also identical. So if you are able to find one, then it's the same as the three. So you just multiply by what? Three. And like how we calculated for the base area. Okay, so area of the lateral face, you ask yourself, what shape is the lateral face? So you realize that the lateral face is what? It's a rectangle. But note this, it's not always that the lateral face will be what? A rectangle. We can also get a square what? Lateral face, depending on how long the height or the length of the um, pyramid, the prism is. Okay, yes. So we can get a square what? A lateral face. So take note of that. Okay, but if you look at this shape here, you can easily see that it has what? A rectangular what? Lateral face. So if you are finding the area of a lateral face, it means you are finding the area of a rectangle. And we all know that for a rectangle, we have the length and the breadth or the width. So in this case, our length of the rectangle, which is the lateral face, is the same as the height of the um, prism. Okay, so take note of that. So how do we find the area? It's just a matter of what? Multiply the length by the width. The length, which is the same as the height, which can also be called the depth, which can also be called the altitude. Okay, yes, that is the same as the length in this case. Okay, and then once we calculate that, then it is very, very easy to get the total area of the lateral phases, and that is just a matter of multiply by what? Three, because we have three of the lateral phases. Very interesting, right? Yes, that's great. Now if that's the case, then let's move on. Okay, so we can also talk about the total surface area. Once we are able to calculate the area of the base and the area of the lateral phases, because when we talk of the total surface area or the surface area of the prism, you need to know the area of the base. The bases are what? Two. Okay, and that is the triangular what? Base. So you find the area of the two parallel what? Bases. Okay, then you find the area of the three um lateral faces as well. Then when you finish, you add all of them. That is how to find the total surface area of a prism. So whatever prism given to you, to find the total surface area, all that you do is you need to find the area of the two um, base faces. Then you find the area of the lateral faces depending on the type of prism you have. Then you add all of them together, and that gives you what? The total surface area. So in this case, we've already calculated for the base area, which is that, and then we also have the lateral, what? The area of the lateral faces. So it's just a matter of adding them together, and you are going to go. Very, very easy. All right. Yes. So if that's the case, then find let's look at it again. Now you realize that we have the base there. As for the area, it is there, and we have the height. So to get the volume, okay, we are going to calculate for the volume. So the volume of a pyramid is just what? The area of the base face of the prism. Yes, I always say pyramid. We are dealing with what? Prism, not pyramid. Okay, so take note of that. All right, so finding the volume is just what? The product of the area of the base face by the height. Okay, yes, so finding the volume of any given prism is just a matter of what? Multiplying the area of the base of that prism by the height of the prism. Okay, so we've already calculated the area. Okay, now the area, we are not talking about the total area. We are not talking about the two areas. If you calculate one, you are using that one. Okay, so just calculate the area of one base, then you multiply by the height or the depth or the altitude or the length of the lateral face. Okay, we know the height already. That is how to find the volume of what a given prism. So once we know, okay, we know the area of the base face as half times the base length times the height of the base face. Then and we also know the length, we just multiply. Okay, so in that case, our volume is giving us what? Area of base face times what? The length or the height. Okay, the height of the prism. That is how to find the volume. Okay, and as I said, the height is the same as the length of the lateral face. Okay, yes, you just find the area of one of the bases of the prism, then you look at or you identify the length of one lateral what face, then you multiply the two together and it gives you what? The volume. Remember that in the previous lesson we said that volumes volume is measured in what? Cube cube unit, and areas are measured in what? Squared unit, and um, perimeter is just measured in the unit given. So take note of that. All right, that is good. So if that's the case, then let's see if we can talk about it. So this is our volume. Okay, volume is what? Half times base length of the base face times height of the base face times height of the prism. Is that okay? All right, then let's take our rectangular prism. So let's say if we have a rectangular prism, now know that a rectangular prism is also the same as for the cuboid. If you have a cuboid, a box that is in the form of rectangular, it has what? Rectangular faces. So when you have a box that has what? Rectangular faces, that is what we call the cuboid or rectangular prism. Okay, yes. Now let's take our rectangle. So this is the face or the base. Okay, always the base depends on the type of what? Polygon. So in this case, our polygon is what? Rectangle, and that is our base. So we have one of the base. Let's draw another one. Okay, so because I've already told you that for every prism we have two identical what? Bases. Okay, so it is two bases that we use the lateral faces to connect them to form the prism. Okay, in that case, um let's join. So we form them with our height. So this is our height. Okay, and that gives us one lateral what? Face. Okay, then we have another height which also gives what? The length of one lateral what? Face, and we have another height which also gives what? The length of one lateral face. Okay, so if you look at it, you realize that we have two um, bases, and then yes, two base faces which are all what? Rectangles, and then we also have what? One lateral face which is a rectangle, and we have another lateral face which is also a rectangle. We have another lateral face which is also a rectangle, and we have another lateral face which is also a rectangle. So you realize that for a rectangular prism all the faces are what? Rectangle. So we have four of the lateral faces which are also rectangle. In that case, how many faces do we have? We have what? Six faces of a rectangular prism. So know this. Right, very, very interesting. Okay, so good. So if that's the case, then let's find the dimensions, okay, of the prism. So for the dimensions, we can have what? The length, okay, the length of the base of the base face. Okay, yes. And then we can also have what? The height. Okay, the height of the prism, which is the width. We can say it is the width or the breadth of the lateral what face, or it can also be the length of the lateral face. So as for the rectangular prism, depending on the shape, okay, that is the height of the prism. It can also be the length of the rectangular what lateral what face. It can also be the width or the breadth. Okay, then we can have the height of the face of the base. Okay, yes. So this height we are talking about is what? The base height, which can also be called what? The width of the base, because since the base is a rectangle, it can be the height, okay, of the base. It can be the length. It can be the width. Yes, that is how it is. But normally, when if it is height, you know that height is always what? Perpendicular. If there's going to be height, then it should be what? Perpendicular. So once you realize that it is perpendicular, then we are dealing with height. Okay. Yes, that is great. So if that is the case, then let's try and find the total surface area and the volume. Okay, so if that's the case, then let's label each of the parts. So if the down one is length, then the top is also length. Then the other side is also length. The one is also length. Then we have, if that side is width, then here is also width. Then that side is also width, and that side is also width as well, which is the same as the height or the breadth. Then this side is also height of the base. This side is also height. That side is height. Exactly. Then we are good to go. Okay, so let's try our best and find um the total surface area and the volume. Okay, so if you take the base, you realize that we have one face of the base, and in that face we have what? The height, which is h, and the length. Then, so that is the front what? The front face. Then we can also have the same what? It is identical, which is what? The back, the back face, okay, which is identical to the front face, and it also has what? The length and the height. So it means that if you are finding the area of this, because they are two, and it is a rectangle, finding the area of a rectangle is what? Length times what? Breadth. But in that case, we have that part as height and that part as what? Length. So we just multiply the height by what? The length. So in that case, the front and the back is L times H. Why multiplying two? Because we have front and back and they are identical. So if you find one, you can just multiply by two to get the total. Then we can also have the top. For the top, we have what? The width and the length, which is also identical to the bottom. Okay, it's also identical to the bottom. So we also have the width and the length. So if we are finding area of that, then it means that we are going to have the top and the bottom also length times what? Width, and they are two, so we multiply by two. Then we also have what? The side um phases, okay, which in that way we have what? The height and the width, and then we have another side way, okay, which is also what? Height and width. So we find area for the two as well. That means we are side and side, we also multiply by width and what? Height, because they are also two. So finding all these areas, because that is what? The areas of the entire what? Prism. So finding the surface area, we just add them and we are good to go. Okay, very interesting. So we just add all the areas of the phases calculated and we are good to go. That's very interesting, right? Yes, great. So, and that is the total surface area. Okay, now let's look at how to find the volume. Okay, so as we said that the volume is just what? Multiplying what? The area of the base of the um yes, the area of the base of the prism by the height of the prism. Okay, so it's very, very easy. And how do you find the area of the base? We know that area of the base is what is a rectangular what shape. So it means finding the area of the base is just what length times width, and that was the where we calculated and we got height each multiplying what the length. Okay, yes. So volume is just length times what the width, which can be the height in this case, times the height of the prism. Okay, very, very interesting. So that is why we say that the volume. Okay, yes, that's it. So to find the area or to find the volume of a prism is what? It is the area of the base of the prism multiplying what? The height of the prism. That is all. And I've said that the height is the same as the length or the width of the lateral what? Face. So take note of that. And I repeat, I say another word we can use in place of the height of the prism is what we can say the depth of or the altitude. To take note of that. All right, that's great. Now, um, let's see this now. Uh, let's look at this line which crosses the shape. But before I forget, let me also draw your attention to this. Now, all these things that we are talking about, now the base phase that we are talking about, okay, it is also called the cross section. Yes, so take note when we talk of the cross section, we are talking about the base, the type of what polygon. So the base is a rectangular what base, okay, rectangular face. So if we talk about the cross section, it means that the cross section is what is a rectangle. If it is a triangular prism, then you know that the base is what a triangle. So the cross section is the triangle. Okay, that is the base. So take note of that. Okay, now let's come to this diagonal what line there. So in a case where we ask you to find the diagonal space or the diagonal, you realize that that diagonal what it cuts across the prism, and when it cuts across, you realize that so that we use the D for the diagonal. Okay, now you realize that it forms what a right angle. If you look at the other side, because this is what a regular prism, the lateral faces are what perpendicular to the base face. So definitely they form what right angle. Okay. Yes. So once they form right angle, then you know that we have this side because the diagonal is dividing it. So we have this side which is the length, and we have this side which is the height, and we have this side which is also what the width. So it means that to find the diagonal, we are going to apply the concept of what Pythagoras theorem. Yes, and what do we say about Pythagoras theorem? We are saying that the square of the longest side of a right angle triangle is the same as what the sum of squares of the other two sides. Okay, so looking at this, you realize that it looks like what a right angle triangle. So the D, which is the diagonal, now represents our hypotenuse, and the length, the height, and the width represent our other side. So applying the concept of Pythagoras to find the hypotenuse, we are just going to see D squared is equal to L squared plus E squared plus W squared, because these are the other sides. Okay, then we find the diagonal side as what square root of um, length squared, height squared, and what width squared, and you are good to go. Oh, great. Yes, so that is it. Okay, so that is for the diagonal. So when you ask in the question, when you are asked to find the diagonal, then you should be able to tell us how to go about it. All right, now, as I said, that we should have looked at what a square prism. But you see, if you take a square prism and a rectangular um, prism, you realize that both of them have common hot features. At the end of the day, we are going to go through the same processes. So if we are dealing with a rectangle, then the same way I'm teaching you, can when a question is asked on a square prism, you can use the idea learned in the rectangular prism to answer a square questions on a square what prism. Yes, because at the end of the day, for the square, the only thing is that the only difference is that for a rectangular prism, all the faces are what rectangle, but in the case of a square, you can have the base as a square and the lateral faces as what rectangle, or you can still have what the base to be square and the lateral faces to be what square as well. Okay, so depending, as I said, depending on the how long, okay, the height is depending how deep, okay, the the prism is. That is it. If that's the case, then let's look at our next concept, which will be trapezoidal prism. So in this case, since we've already gone through the total surface area, the height, and all that, we will not waste time. We just want to look at how we find the volume of a trapezoidal prism in case you get a question. Okay, so let's take our base face. So this is a trapezium. Okay, that is the shape. Then you can have another one, because I've already told you that for prisms we have two identical what bases. All right, yes. So if we have this, then let's join them together. So this becomes my height. Okay, and that is a length of a lateral what face. Then I have another one, so another height. So this forms what a lateral face. Then I can have this here again, which also gets me another lateral face. I'll get this, also gives me two lateral faces. So in that case, how many lateral faces? We have what, four of them. Okay. Now know that the number of sides of the uh, base face gives the number of lateral what faces. So take note of that. If you have three size, okay, of a base face, then you are going to get what, three lateral faces, as then it goes on like that. Okay, so let's identify our height. Now you know that for a trapezium we have the height, okay, yes, and then we also have two parallel um sides. Okay, these are the two parallel sides of the trapezium. So if you have this, then we know that these are the two parallel sides. Then we can also talk about the height, okay, which is also the length or the depth or the altitude. Okay, then let's look at this one. Okay, so we know that we have the face. So if we have the face, then finding the volume is very, very easy, because we've already told you that finding the volume is just a matter of what, multiplying the area of the base by the height of the prism. So we know that the base area of a trapezium is what, half multiplying what, the height of the base multiplying the sum of the two parallel sides. Okay, yes, and then we are good to go. Then we just find volume by multiplying the base area by the height, which is the same as the length of the prism, and we are good to go. So my dear students, very, very interesting. That is just to throw more light on what we've already done in the previous video. So if you still have challenges, you can still contact me, then we'll go about it. If that is the case, let's end here. My name is Evans. I'm your mathematics facilitator. This is Mazris TV. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Bye bye.